Alright, you ladies and gents, howdy there, Yamasaki here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's part 4, and we're starting off with a victory. Not with this thing, we'll get to that. But over here, I got my governor and camshaft assembly, and the victory is I was able to get that push rod slider out. So I'm going to fill you in on that, and I want to get that thing drained and cleaned up. We're not going to try and push the piston out yet. That's for a later video. But yeah, we got 1 out of 4 victories on getting the stuck parts unstuck. So happy about that. But anyway, let's get this intro rolling and let's get to work. Okie dokie. So, aside from that, we're going to work on this. Like I said, we're not going to drive that piston out. I still need to get some things prepped and get it all cleaned out in there best I can and everything. Heat the piss out of it. But it's been soaking in there for about 2 days now. 2 nights, 1 day. More than enough than what I've usually done with other parts. So, and once it gets the rust off as much as it can, it really doesn't do much after that. So I'm going to go ahead and drain this, get it all cleaned up with some xylene, get a wire brush on it, and see what kind of results we get. I did order 2 more bottles of Evapo-Rust. That's for inside here and inside the hopper. Now, I went on the old Facebook groups, joined a couple of hit and miss engine groups, and a feller there said that there's some pretty interesting ways you can get these pistons out. One way is you put some kerosene in the cylinder and just light it on fire and let it do its thing. Another way, which I thought was pretty interesting and pretty fascinating, is you just lay the engine down and you fill the water hopper with blazing hot charcoal. Genius! Now, I don't think I'm going to do either of those methods, although I could, as a last-ditch effort. Still going to try and use the old acetylene torch. It's a fairly small torch, but if I can get a block of wood in there, get it heated up, and get some lubrication through there, I should be able to get this thing out. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get this thing drained out, and I'll show you the aftermath, the results that we get. Hopefully they're good. Alright, so here's the results. It's looking pretty darn good in there. I think it got a lot of the stuff out of there. Mainly, I wasn't worried about the inside of the piston. There was a lot of grease in there from this joint here. I was concerned about this because it was pretty rusty. I was concerned about the butt end of the piston and the little lip right here, the little edge of the cylinder, but it looks like it got it pretty good. So I put some oil on there to preserve it, make sure it doesn't rust, and now I guess really the only thing left to do for this piston is to get it the hell out of there. Okay, so now we're on to how I got the push rod slider out of the governor and camshaft assembly. So what I did, like I said, I've Evapo-Rusted it twice, and I just heated it up. I think I heated it up last night, and then I heated it up this morning, but I put some Marvel's Mystery Oil in all the slots that I could, and let it soak. And what I ended up doing is I took some of the pieces off. I'll get into that in a minute. There's quite a bit off of this thing. What I ended up doing is it was stuck downward a little bit. The camshaft is supposed to spin freely like this, back and forth, but it would get stopped by that rod. And what I ended up doing is I put some electrical tape on this, took an old vice grip oil filter tool, and I just spun it, and that pushed it up just enough to where I could get it a brass punch and a hammer and hammer it back down. And I just did that a couple of times and it came out of there. So there's nothing holding it in. I mean, it's just sitting in there. The only thing that jars it back is the springs and the rocker arm. So I'm not going to take this any more apart. It's as good as it's going to get. I'm just going to clean it up, paint it the best I can. It's going to be a tricky son of a gun to paint with all the little nooks and crannies and everything, so it might not be the prettiest part, but I'll fix it. And just to show you guys what I took off of that thing, this piece is where your push rod goes in. So it's just a modified bolt with a little cup insertion piece right there, and that's where your push rod would sit. And then behind that, it clamps. Where is that piece? It clamps, not that. Not sure where I put that piece. It's somewhere around here. Clamps it, and that's what holds some other parts together. You've got your two bolts that hold your, I can't really remember what these parts are. I'll have to go back in the manual. I'll have to show you guys the manual that I bought for this thing. But these two pieces play a big role in your miss part of the engine operation. See, this part would be on that rod in here. See how it's got kind of a toe there on both sides? And then you've got a flat piece that's held on right here. And when everything's moving properly, that slide comes out enough to where this toe is going to catch right there. And that is what holds your exhaust valve open until your flywheel and your governor assembly lose enough momentum that it pops back out and pops. So it just does that over and over again. That's all it does. Pretty fascinating stuff. And the cool thing about these two pieces is they're totally reversible. One side is a little more wore out than the other. That side's a little rounded, but this side here is as sharp as a knife. And then this piece was a little bit wore out on both sides, so I just took a file and I tried to clean it up and sharpen it up the best I could, so it'll still work properly, I'm sure. This bolt holds in another piece that I'll have to show you in a minute. It's currently being painted, but you got your bolts here. This piece goes like so on the opposite side of this arm. It goes up here with the bolts. Not sure what it was for, just probably a spacer. And then you've got your little, got your little screw right here, and that's what holds that toe. So, a couple of parts there. I've got the connecting rod. Why do I keep dropping things? The connecting rod and crankshaft bolts, they need to be primed and painted. As I said in the last video, I wasn't really going to buy any hardware, but it's got two different nuts. One is correct, it's a castle nut, because these both have holes for cotter pins. Another one's just a regular. And I was asking good old Pop if grade 8 nuts were necessary, and me and him both agreed that probably not. 500 RPMs is not going to really shimmy anything apart or strip anything if everything's running smooth. So I'm going to end up replacing those. Another thing I've forgotten to show you is, well, here's the back piece to your connecting rod. I got that all painted up, and look at how beautiful that babbitt is. Look at that hand machined groove for some oil and grease. I thought was pretty cool. But when I took that off, 26 shims came with it. These two here, and then all these little brass ones here. And these ones are for the main bearings here on your crankshaft. Only had 3, surprisingly. So I'm hoping it's correct. But yeah, look at all those things. Not sure how I'm going to clean them. Not going to put them in vinegar. Vinegar does a great job of cleaning brass, but it will also dissolve it within time, which is not what I need. Then over here I just got some parts painting. These are the inner tapered head screws that hold the magneto to the magneto bracket, which is right here. Also primed on one side, ready to go. And then this piece is part of your camshaft and governor assembly. It's what that big long bolt would have held. And this is called, I think it's called the bell housing pin. Bell housing arm. I'm not sure what it does, but that little lever that operates up and down that holds your exhaust valve has a bolt that rests on top of here. I don't know if you can really see it that well. Maybe I can twist it a little bit. It's pretty wore out, but I think it's going to be just fine. It'll operate just fine. So I have that painting. And here's that other piece that big modified cup bolt would hold. Go right in here, and then your magneto rod would go in there. Pretty cool. Well, I'm trying to figure out what's next. Like I said, not going to work on the piston just yet. Need to do some more things. I think the next thing I need to do, aside from get that freed up and the governor freed up, is I need to clean this flywheel assembly. It is pretty greasy. And this collar here is supposed to move, but it's not. It's pretty froze up. It's just going to be real tricky to clean this thing because I can't take it all apart. Painting it's going to be a pain too. A lot of masking. But we're going to get it. We're going to get it. I'm going to have to put this thing in a big tray. Just take some degreaser and start scrubbing away. Alrighty, y'all. So now we're into the nitty gritty. I've been degreasing this thing for the past half hour, 45 minutes. This progress has been made. Not much though. I still got a ways to go. But the journals look as good as they're going to get. I heated this and then I took the wire wheel on the drill in certain spots. You can see there's some extra shine going on in places. But the most important piece here is this governor is moving now. It's stiff. It's stiff, so it needs to be lubricated and cleaned further, but we're getting there. We're getting there. I need to see if I can take this piece off, and I'm hoping that this whole piece can fit in the evaporust bucket. That would be pretty sweet. And for those of you who are wondering, possibly curious on what I'm using to degrease this thing, I've been using this oil eater cleaner degreaser for years now. Dad swears by it, and I've used it enough times to say that this stuff works. It's water-based, just like the evaporust. So you can pick it up on Amazon. It's pretty good stuff. Just mix it with water. And I just got the other side of these 3 parts painted. 2 coats through. Just gotta let them dry. I got some gray parts in there too. Not gonna show you. We're just gonna keep on rolling along. This is what's next to paint. This thing is as clean as it's gonna get. As free and as apart as it's gonna get. See, I got that slider out of there. And that camshaft is free. This thing is working just fine. You can see I missed some spots of red and everything. And you know what? It's going to look better than what it is now. I'm probably just going to mask off the gears, the tooth here. And that's about it. And then just prime it, paint it, get it done. I figured I might as well show you since I have the chance. Here's the slider. Came out of the evaporust looking real good. It's got some very, very light pitting. Just makes it look ugly. But I took some Scotch-Brite to it and a little bit of sandpaper. I put it in the lathe and got it as shiny as I could get it. This roller is free. A little bit of grease in there, but grease is going to get in there anyway. But this is how it works. Just slides in, just like so. Your toe would screw in here. And then your top governor iron right here that catches goes right here. So that camshaft pushes, all it does is it pushes it out. The springs are what bring it back. Pretty fascinating stuff. So the next time you see this, hopefully it's painted. Hopefully I do a good job. Alright, so I just got the first 2 coats of smoke gray on there, at least on the top side and on the gear here. I masked off the side, or the surface on the camshaft, but other than that, everything is getting painted. Put some oil in there so I can wipe the paint out when I'm done. Then I gotta do the bottom. So that's gonna have to dry. In the meantime, I've been getting that pulley system off of that flywheel assembly, and let's go take a look. It's not a pretty sight. Oof da madre. I wasn't talking to you, but I love you. That is a lot of rust. Oh man. Look at that. That is all scale rust. And look what fell out of there. Hi, pretty kitty. Yeah, that's going to take some time. That is for sure. That is for sure. We're going to have to get on that. I'm probably just going to evapor rust that, and then I'm going to have to go to work on the wire wheel with this thing. Ooh, man. I think that's one of the worst parts that was rusted on this, was that right there. I've seen my fair share of rust. That's not pretty. I really doubt I could have gotten this flywheel off, even if I tried. Alright, y'all. Well, I think this is where I'm going to leave this here video. Not much progress, but a little bit more. A moderate amount. Hopefully next part of this series, we get the piston out of there. We got 2 out of 4. This one still needs a little work. Just needs cleaned. Cleaned and to start moving again. That's what'll help it. The piston's next, and the head's next, or the valve. Still am undecisive on how I'm going to go about it. But we're just going to have to roll along with it and rock and roll. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more content. And Yamasaki out. We'll see y'all later.